Each week, we welcome to our NfG stage one of our highly talented members or special guests to bring you something designed to help you and your business. In addition to his passion for business, our next guest also has an interesting passion for sound. After running a large audio manufacturing company, supplying equipment across the globe for a wide range of performers ranging from Frank Sinatra to Iron Maiden, at venues as diverse as Glastonbury and the Carnegie Hall, I'm sure he has many interesting stories to tell. After establishing his own business nearly 20 years ago, he works as a management consultant and business coach for a wide range of well-known companies, even using his skills to help the voice of many charities be heard. Perhaps unsurprisingly, for the last 3 years, he has even shared his wisdom and knowledge working as a radio presenter on Meridian FM as a lead presenter on a weekly business show. With a talk entitled 13 Ways to Increase the Value of Your Business, we bring to you Alan Wick. Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, Richard. Thank you. That's such a lovely introduction. I can't possibly live up to that. Forget it. So this might remind you of a Simon and Garfunkel song, 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, but I thought of 13 ways to increase the value of your business. And I've been involved in business for over 40 years, in the last 20 years, particularly supporting entrepreneurs of small and medium-sized businesses. And I thought I'd cover something that is rarely talked about. I think we all talk about profit and loss and increasing sales and so on, but what about the actual value of your business? So I'll do a short introduction, a little bit about me, what I do, etc., then go into those 13 ways that I referenced, and then hopefully leave a bit of time for Q&A. There's a bit of a health warning that I normally spend about an hour on this talk, so it's been quite a challenge to try to squeeze it in to 10 minutes or so, but I'll do my best. But it will be a little bit of a canter through this rather than a steady walk. So as Richard was just referencing, I'm not going to spend much time on this. I built up a number of businesses in different sectors, over 200 million pounds worth of sales, adding it all up over 20 years. They're still trading at over 20 million pounds a year. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that my children, as I think of them, have gone out into the world and are doing really well, albeit with new parents, if you like, under new ownership. And I'm still in touch with all of the people I work with, and it's lovely to see how well they're doing. These days, I'm helping lots of different entrepreneurs, all sorts of different sizes, businesses and sectors, and helping them develop their businesses and so on. And what I do, so there's one-to-one business coaching, consulting. I've also introduced recently group learning and development programs. I've got one running at the moment called The Business of Business, with 12 micro business owners that are on a 3-month program like a mini MBA. And there's another cohort starting in September. I have a free reality check online indicator, which works out the strengths and weaknesses of your business. Takes about 10 minutes to fill in, and I hope you'd find that useful. No strings attached. I think my colleague Remini is putting the link into the chat now if you want to give that a go. And I also run free webinars, nothing to buy, free to attend. The next one is on money as the subject on the 20th of May. And as Richard talked about, I have a weekly radio show. It's on local radio here. I'm based in Sussex, Kent and Surrey, but it is also available on the internet. And that's where actually most of the 25 to 30,000 listeners listen in, is through the internet rather than the local radio station. So let's just start off with something, please. Now I'm going to canter through this quite quickly, but please put into the chat whether you know the approximate value of your house or flat. I'm not asking you for the value, just a yes or no. Do you know the value of your house or flat? Roughly. Great. Lots of yeses. Yep. Oh, Emma, no. That's one unusual one, but mostly yeses. Yeah. Good. What I'd expect. Now let's move on to this question. Andy, yep-ish, I like it. Do you know the approximate value of your business? Yes or no? A few yeses, Pippa not a clue, mostly no's, Joe mostly knows. Okay, and that's the subject of my talk. So with private businesses, there are many ways to value private business. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail with each of these, and some of them sound really boring, really technical, and you've got to have a very good accountant to help you work these out. Comparable company analyses, or CCAs, in other words, looking at the trading activities of similar sorts of companies in that sector. Looking at transactions, there are a number of databases available which many accountants subscribe to look at transactions of mergers and acquisition activity of transactions that have taken place. There's discounted cash flow, which is horribly complicated, and another way of doing it. There's book value plus goodwill, looking at the balance sheet and goodwill. And then finally, the one I'm going to focus on today, which is the one that I have the most experience with, which is taking the value of a business equals its profit times its multiple, which I'm going to go into. So any more questions on this, if you put them either into the chat or you want to carry on talking about this, it is possible to book a 30-minute call with me where I'd be pleased to talk about it. So looking at this in more detail, value equals profit times multiple. What does that mean? Take a business that's got a profit of 100K, multiply it by 5, the value would be 500K. Why 5? What's a multiple? I hear you ask. A multiple is simply the number of years at the current profits that business has, that a buyer or investor will look at the value of the business that they're willing to invest, that they'll get that if it carried on at that current amount of 100K, that they get that money back in a certain amount of time. That's all a very simple way of looking at it. We all know, I'm sure everybody here at Networking for Good and all the members and guests understand that we can work on our turnover and profits, what we're doing probably week in, week out. And Mark Terrell, thank you. When I saw my retail business, it was based on 12 times weekly sale. There we are. So that's another way of doing it. Another way. I'm looking at annual profits, and there are countless other ways to value private businesses. And honestly, what it comes down to is, what is somebody prepared to pay for the business? So let's look at some examples. This is a client I was working with that was in the contract cleaning business. I worked with them a number of years ago. They had 20 million turnover, a couple of million in profits. And what I'm illustrating here is that in their sector, these are real deals that were done a number of years ago, where, for example, Compass Group bought La Luna, I can't even pronounce it, Kangors. The deal value was 3.2 million. And in this case, the multiple was 2.43. What I want to draw your attention to is look at the range of multiples here in the same sector, from 2.43 to 12s, etc. The average is 7.81. The size of the deals is from as small as £252,000 to £110 million. They're all in the same sector, but look at the range of multiple. Why do the multiples vary so much? That's what I would like to focus on in my talk today. So a company I was associated with a number of years ago called Asset Advisory, they were a corporate finance company, and they made it their business to find out what company values were sold at and why. And over many years of research and looking at thousands of private company deals, they spotted some trends. And they found out that just as it's possible to avoid a buyer for your house or flat wanting to reduce the price because there's wet rot or dry rot, there are ways to protect a buyer and investor saying, I'm sorry, I'm not going to pay the industry average for your company because of these things down here, the equivalent of wet rot and dry rot in your home. Or if adding an extension or redoing the kitchen or a loft conversion adds to the value of your house or is likely to, there are certain things that can add to the value of the business. And that can decrease the value if you don't do these things, or it can increase the value if you do these things up here. So there's the industry benchmark, which is usually 3, 4, or 5. And then these are things to increase above and decrease below. Let's look at this in a bit more detail. So I don't have time to go into these, but the word here is control. And it's a bit like a logbook for your car. It's all very well what you might say to a potential buyer and investor, but they want to see evidence of it. So have you got control over these things? If you can show that you have, you're unlikely to decrease the value of the business. And these things that are above the value, in other words, increasing the value, can you demonstrate in writing that your business has the capability to do these things once you've departed and the new buyer takes over or investor gets involved? And so here's a real example of a client I worked with recently, who I helped the owners retire. We looked at all the aspects of their business. I then scored them, tick, neutral, cross from a buyer or investor's point of view, and then they chose which things to work on to increase the value of their business and avoid an investor or buyer saying, I'm sorry, you haven't got this done, you haven't got proof of that, I'm going to pay less. And that was a very quick skip through, Richard.